Okay. Are we online?
I believe we are live. We are live, folks. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome,
Very good.
welcome.
Welcome.
So, first thing we do here, we got some housekeeping stuff. We're going to let people join us. We're going to make sure that we can see you all.
And yes, we know we've come on just a couple of minutes early just to give more people a chance to realize they're in the right place.
All right.
Okay.
I can see us. We
Yeah.
are on. We are live.
And we're just going to ask one question right now. Is the sound okay for everybody? And so if we can just get a couple of comments written in just to say whether if we're too quiet or whatever, that would be very helpful. So we're just watching to see, and it'll also tell us if our comments are working as well.
That's right. All right.
Well, they're working on that one, but as usual, not
As
on this
usual.
one.
Yep. Yep. Sure are. Sure are. How's sound sounding over there, you guys? We were good? Perfect. Perfect. So, like I said, we're going to do a little bit of small talk. We're going to let people trickle in before we really start taking off here. But we want to welcome everybody to our first live session of the Beginner Beekeeping Workshop. This has been an amazing group. This is a huge group that we
That's
have
right.
in here.
Yeah, we're over 650.
Yep, yep. We've had, I mean, just and you guys have asked some great questions. You guys have kept us our finger workouts here with all these answering all these questions. But
Yes, and my typing is like that, so that's a lot of workout.
so for most of you who don't know, we are from the upper right, aka Maine. So we are way up here in the northeast, and we have been in the deep freeze here for a while, for
Beginning
quite
of
a while.
December, I'd say.
Yep, this is one of, I saw on the news tonight, this is one of the coldest winters we've had since like 2008. So it's we are chilly up here.
We've got about 18 inches, 2 feet of snow, and I'd say in the last 2 months, 2 and a bit months, we probably had 4 days above freezing.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Well, we got 57 in the group right now.
so
We
far,
got people
that's
coming on
good. They're
in.
coming in.
So let's we're gonna kick things off here. So this is how this works. You folks type in your questions, and we're gonna answer questions as they come in. Now we have a lot of people in this group. We will not be able to get to every single question, but we are going to do our best to try and keep up. As we mentioned in our prior video, we are here to talk about bees and bees only, and we keep it friendly and respectful. So those are our only ground rules. But we like to have fun in here.
Yes, and we've got a couple of people over there watching like a hawk. If anyone's starting to get nasty,
Oh,
they're out
yep,
right away.
just like that.
Okay.
They're gonna get stung.
That's
So
right.
yes, we do. We have some helpers over here, so we're going to do our best to keep up with all the questions. Yeah, so let's kick it off.
Okay.
So the first thing we want to say to everybody is we would like everybody to say hi and tell us where you're from. And it's not just for our knowledge or we just we're nosy. We're actually going to use this to enter a drawing.
Yep. So if you put in, hi, I'm so and so from New Jersey or wherever, and that we're going to at the end of the on Friday we're going to check all the different responses we've had, so that way we've got something from as many people who've joined us and have written that. So for a drawing of a few different beekeeping prizes.
Right. So we like to give stuff away. So we're gonna be giving away some swag here. We are going to be giving away a Beekeeping 24/7 hat. That will be one of our prizes. Another one is one of our T-shirts, and the other sweatshirt. So again, if you just say hi and where you're from, that will be your entry into. We're going to put everybody's name into a bucket, and we'll do a drawing on Friday and give some
Yes.
products away.
And on Friday, we're going to talk about one other prize that's going to be available, and that's going to be a triple layer beekeeping jacket.
Yes.
So value is about $100, so it's a really nice prize. They're lifesavers in the heat.
Oh my gosh, it makes a difference between passing out and not passing out in the field. So
Yes, if you can afford the slight upgrade in cost, I would definitely always go with a triple layer suit which are called ventilated suits, rather than a single layer of cotton. Even though they're a little bit heavier, they are way more comfortable. You can feel the air blow right through them. In fact, the first time after decades of wearing a single layer cotton suit, you're knocking everything
Whoops.
over there, Amy.
This is
Uh,
what they look like.
Yeah, and so you'll see it's got a triple fancy layer here, which lets the air blow right through. So we'll be talking more about that on Friday anyway.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so how many have we got so far?
So far, we have 118 folks in the room.
Wonderful.
That was quick.
Okay, that's not bad at a 6:50 for a live session. We know a lot of you will be joining us after the event tonight, so we'll be answering questions as we go along. As Amy says, we won't necessarily get to every single question tonight, but over the next 24 hours, we will get them all answered, and they'll be written in the comments below.
Right, right. So let's hit it. Let's start right off. Shall we start off with? We've already got a couple that have floated in, or do you want to start?
Yeah, I had a couple of points I wanted to make. First of all, we're just looking at who's joined us and the comments that you've made as well. And most people, of course, are in this group are looking to start beekeeping for the very first time and have been looking forward to it for some time. They're doing the background research.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks have had bees for some time, a year, maybe several years. And most that have joined this group are looking for a bit further advice because they've either feel they're getting variable results or very poor results. And we really like to be able to help those people in particular,
Right.
Because you've invested a lot of time and effort so far, and it gets very demoralizing. Well done for sticking with it.
Proud of you folks. Yeah, there's several of you folks that have done that. We've noticed.
Absolutely. Yep. And so we
Way to keep with
really want to help you guys get through the next stage. And we've had a lot of members in Beekeeping 24/7 that joined us for just that sort of reason, and now are making lots of honey and getting very good survivorship and that sort of thing. So we're delighted to be able to help you. A lot of you folks have farms and looking for pollination and, of course, making some honey. And it's great to be producing some honey. I know when I started beekeeping as an 11-year-old, I was delighted with how much pocket money I was able to get by just selling my honey. And there's no reason why your bees shouldn't pay for themselves at the very least. In fact, when I even only having 2 or 3 hives and having 200 to 400 pounds of honey to sell,
All right.
You could make a lot.
We've got some volume issues.
Volume issues.
Supposedly yours is not
Mine?
coming in as clear as mine.
Mine's not coming in so well, huh?
So we'll try and
Okay.
rectify that a little bit. I can actually turn this up a little bit as well. So
And
that
I could talk louder as well. Okay, so I will talk louder. I'm sorry if I wasn't speaking up.
better.
I
Better
hope,
on the
hope
sound?
That's better anyway. So a lot of you folks are about my age, and you're retired or just retired or coming up to retirement, and you're going to be kicking yourself for waiting so long because it's so much fun. So we're glad you're finally taking the plunge. It's not going to take as much time as you imagined it would.
Right.
And it's going to be a lot easier if you follow very simple procedures like we'll help you with. So.
All right. Let's get into a few
Yeah.
things here.
Good.
All right. So a couple of you guys, you've already had some questions rolling in.
I'll take one.
All right.
Bottom board screen. You mentioned this will cause a draft in the winter. I don't have a real problem with the screen bottom boards causing a draft in the winter. What you would do, a screen bottom board has a tray, an insert that goes underneath it that will block off that draft.
Yep.
The screen bottom boards generally help losing mites from the hive, and hives with screen bottom boards when that screen is open or the tray underneath is open, helps to have mites fall out of the hive. But during the winter time, just close up that little tray underneath and it stops the draft underneath. Bees lose very little heat from the bottom.
And it also helps too with some moisture. If for some reason the hive is tipped a little bit and there's some moisture or water or it rains and gets in there, it tends to run out a lot easier. It doesn't pool on the bottom board. It will run out through the bottom. So those definitely
so
help.
moisture is much less of an issue in a screen bottom board as well.
Right.
Also, I wanted to mention, we're very pleased to see how many people are joining us and doing it with their kids or their grandkids.
Yep.
I have so much fun doing it with my kids and my grandkids. Now, my kids are all grown up now, and I'm starting to show my grandkids this. And if sharing it with someone like that, it is really fun. And we're delighted to be able to help with that. And just as a word of interest, all my kids who've helped a little bit with the bees, they didn't really get into beekeeping as such, although one of them has hive. The thing is that when they go to a job interview or college interview or something like that, they never fail to ask about the beekeeping that they happen to put on their resume because it makes them very interesting. And you'll find that it's always a conversation starter.
Yeah.
It's costs less than piano lessons, and it's a lot more interesting on a resume.
Yeah. So I just saw a question pop up in here. Actually, you're going to see me keep looking off to the side because we're running a couple computers here because we get trying to keep up with some of these questions rolling in. And I've seen this more than once. Those of you who have ordered nukes, your question is when you get your nuke and you're going to set up your hive, it comes with 10 frames. Does the nuke go into you have to take
empties out,
exactly,
and put your new frames in. Now you've got some spare frames,
right,
for if you need to swap out some frames later on or
yep.
something like that.
So yes, your nuke goes into your Langstroth hive, and like Peter said, and then you actually have extra frames in case something breaks or when you do your next put your next brood chamber on, you've got frames to go into that. So definitely. You want to keep extra boxes and extra frames on hand just for that reason.
Certainly.
So extra cold winter this year. Hives are hives covered with a bee cozy. Is it worth it? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Insulation and basically in the second video we talk about overwintering hives and preparing them for winter. If you're in an area where you have sustained cold weather, and really you're talking about like the northern half of the country, insulation will really make a difference. Particularly when it's going to do two things. One, it's going to stop the hives chilling very quickly when temperatures drop really fast. And that's really important because that's what sometimes kills hives. The other thing is that it speeds up the rate at which they build up during the spring. And so insulation on a hive is a great thing. I've got another one here. My colony left before I got another package. What do I need to do to the hive? So basically a colony that died. When you say a colony left, very rarely is it that the bees actually just left the hive. What it is they probably died from an overload from the viruses that the mites brought into the hive.
Right.
And so, number one, look into your mite treatment regime this year. That's the most important thing. The good news is that very rarely is there an issue left over with the dead out stuff. The frames, you might have dead bees in the frame, you might have mold on the frames. Just take a brush, lightly brush off anything that's loose. Don't scrape off the frame. The new bees are going to clean that up amazingly. Within a couple of days, you'll never have known there was a dead hive in there before. So just reuse the equipment. If you have frames that are all chewed up by mice and that sort of thing, you might want to replace a few combs that way. But generally speaking, you can reuse that equipment. Just brush off the dead bees to give them a hand cleaning up.
So I've seen a couple things pop up here already about bears. How do you protect from bears? Electric fence.
Yeah, there's no way around it really. Yep. We use either 12 or 6 volt, usually solar energizers, and it does a great job. Once those are up, we have not had an issue with them. When you don't have them, even in the middle of the city, you can have bears.
This is correct. This is correct. I live in the middle of the city. I have an 8-foot stockade fence, and I had a bear right in the middle of the city, and a big bear at that. And yep, got my hives. And here I am in Beekeeping 24/7 preaching to all our members. Oh, if you don't have problems with bears yet, you will. You really, you got to have an electric fence. And thought I was immune as to where I lived, and nope. And it's true. If you haven't had problems with a bear yet, you will. So electric fence all the way.
Okay, we've got the big one here. Talk about mites.
Mites is going to be a discussion.
Right. Mites. We've spent a bit of time in the videos talking about mites. And the good news about what we want to talk about is that there are some new mite treatments out since we made that video, which are now commonly available in most states, if not all states, for some. Number one is a slow release mechanism for oxalic acid called Viroxan, and there are 1 or 2 more seeking approval for like a slow release where you can put it in the hive and it can stay in there for a couple of months. So our number one go-to for knocking mite levels down is formic acid, brand name Formic Pro. Another one, if the temperatures are too high for using formic acid, we will use HopGuard or hops extracts, which have a beta acid in them.
Yeah.
These are all considered organic treatments, so you can still say you're using organic treatment in your hive. It doesn't leave residues. The important thing is anything that we recommend, it's not going to leave a residue in your hive.
And it doesn't affect the honey.
Doesn't affect the honey and doesn't leave residues in the comb and that sort of thing, which in a more advanced class we talk about all sorts of residues and that sort of things in combs over a longer period of time. Sorry?
Grab that picture right up there. And let's back it up a little bit on mites, okay? So I know we talked about it in the video, but we're going to back. Basically, you know, mites, they attach themselves to the larvae and they attach themselves to bees and they just suck them dry, and they end up making them susceptible to diseases and viruses and stuff like that. So it will make your hive sick, and it will eventually kill your hive if you don't treat, if you don't monitor it. So these are what those little guys look like. They're horrendous. That's terrifying looking.
In fact, for a bee, the parasite is enormous. So for us, it would be like having a tick this size gnawing away on you. So you can imagine the damage that happens with the bees when they're gnawing away on them and reproducing, and there's more of them, etc. They damage the bee, but it's just like a tick can give us Lyme disease. Mites bring in dozens of different viruses into the hive, and it's usually the viruses that ultimately kill the hive.
Right. So what do we do about this? We monitor. And when I say we monitor our mite levels is we have to test them. Now, we have equipment here for that, for our mite tests, and we do what's called an alcohol wash. And I've got one of those right.
And in the meantime, while I was talking about before Amy went on this side of things, we have a second one as well as the Viroxan. We have a second one being introduced called Noroa. Now, this is one that we haven't used yet. It was only just approved in Maine in the last few weeks. And Noroa is something where it's stuff that's actually put inside the honey, the sugar syrup, and the bees feed on it, and it's distributed amongst the brood. And both Viroxan and Noroa will slow down the reproduction of the mites. So while they don't knock mite levels down, they tend to hold mite levels from building up. So hives, we're looking at different strategies now because we have mite treatments that can go in even when mite levels are low, so they stay that way. So watch this space, and you'll learn about that more in other education programs that you do, or if you're staying with us in Beekeeping 24/7, we're working a lot on mite treatments and the different and the most up-to-date mite treatments available now.
So, and like we started to say that, you know, we monitor and we test for mites because you're not going to see them. You know, some new beginner beekeepers will look and say, I don't see any mites, therefore I don't have them. You're not going to see them. Sometimes they're on the bellies of the adult bees, but a lot of them are inside the cap brood. But this is what we test them with. So basically what happened, and we're going to have a video, and we're going to show you folks how we do a mite test. We take a half a cup of bees, and half a cup of bees go in here, and we fill this up with alcohol, rubbing alcohol. Set this in, put a half a cup of bees in, put the cover on, and shake it, and shake it, and shake it, shake it. And what this does is that dislodges the bee, the mite from the bee, and it goes down to the bottom here. And then we count how many mites we see. And there's a method, you know, for a half a cup of bees, we want our mite count to be 6 or below. So if we look at that, and I've got 5, 6, it's time to treat.
Definitely time to treat. And also, we're this threshold at which you treat is evolving now.
Yep.
I am tending to go for much lower thresholds because now I'm using other mite treatments which want to keep them low. So you make a choice when you're doing your mite samples, and as Amy says, we're going to post another video probably tomorrow about mite testing, and which will show you mite testing in action. And basically, if I have 0 or 1 mite, I might leave that hive alone because it's showing good ability to cope, keeping mite levels low. If they're in the sort of 3 or 4 region, I will be using mite treatments like Viroxan or something to keep them low. And if they're like 4, 5, 6 plus, we would be using something like Formic Pro or HopGuard to knock mite levels down because
Right.
they're starting to get dangerous.
Right. Now, some people are saying, we're going to just touch on mites a little bit more. And we're going to try to catch up with some of these questions here because they are
Yep.
rolling in. But how do you catch, how do you put a half a cup of bees in? And we're going to demonstrate
Yes.
that.
It's a half
and we're
cup
gonna-
scoop, literally.
Yeah,
But,
we're going to show you how we do that. Does it kill that half a cup of bees?
Yep.
Yes, it does. And we hate doing it, and it makes us sad. However, it's better to lose a half a cup of bees to make sure that your hive is healthy and see whether or not you need to treat than
rather
have your
lose
entire
50,000
hive.
bees.
Then your whole hive either gets sick or die from mite overload.
And to put in perspective, 300 bees the queen can replace in a couple of minutes,
Yep.
in a few minutes.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
All right, back to your
Okay,
questions.
Can you mow grass around a hive? Yes.
Mhm.
If you're mowing it right next to the hive, I would just put your bee suit on and do it that way because, yeah, you will tick them off for a few minutes if
Mhm.
you're right up close. Generally, if you're not too close to the hive, you could do it absolutely no problem. But
They really hate weed whacking.
they don't like weed whackers, that's true.
They really hate
So
weed
definitely
whackers.
put your bee suit on if you're doing that. When picking up a nuke, do I bring a deep box? Generally, nukes are sold in a box that's for transportation.
Mhm.
And so you take that box home and then open it up and take the frames from one box and put them into yours. So generally speaking, you might pay a deposit if you're getting a wooden one,
Mhm.
but most will generally either be a cardboard or a plastic nuke box
Mhm.
that you just use and keep it for yourself afterwards and use as a swarm trap, perhaps.
Right, and I have seen on some of the questions and some of the people that I've chatted with on here, some bee supply people, they'll say bring your hive, and they'll put them right into the nukes right into your hive box as well. So that's another way to get them into that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you remove the bees before putting the frames in the extractor?
Right. Well, we did go through that in the video a little bit about basically you can use an escape board.
Mhm.
There's a variety of ways of getting the bees out of those boxes. You can use an escape board where the bees go through like a little one-way door
Mhm.
back into the bottom part of the hive. There's also things like fume boards where you can actually put a repellent liquid on a board above the bees and it repels the bees. They move their way down and you take it off when the bees have moved out of that box. There are a variety of ways, or the simple way, take a frame out, brush the bees off, take another frame out, brush the bees off.
They hate that, by the
They
way.
don't like that.
They don't
but
like that at all.
It's a quick and easy way.
Or you
to
can
get-
sometimes you can shake them
it out.
right
Yeah.
down, and then you're going to put them into another box, and you're going to want to have a towel to put over that because they'll immediately go and say, "Hey, that's ours. We want it back."
Right.
So.
Okay, what happens if you keep having to add supers? If worried about getting too tall and heavy, afraid you won't be able to handle it. Isn't that a nice problem to
That is a
potentially
great problem to
face?
have.
Well, basically, the bees will build and build as long as the honey flow is going on. But unfortunately, the honey flows come to an end. Here in Maine, they usually come to an end in mid-July sometime, and then they stop building altogether. They come to a shuddering halt.
Mhm.
If we're lucky, they might start again a bit in the fall.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, most hives might have 2 brood chambers and 2 or 3 honey supers on them. Occasionally, you can make a monster hive and make it really big, in which case, yes, they do get tall. Basically, what you do is if the box is getting full and they've cured the honey, take that box off, extract it, and put the empty super back on so you don't have to keep on going up to a huge hive. But it is a manageable problem, but it is a problem that we all want to have, but rarely
yeah.
do.
Yes, this is true. Do you put something on the screen to kill the mites? No. Basically, the screen bottom board, the purpose of that is they fall through the screen onto the ground and out of
Basically,
the hive.
the bees are always grooming themselves, and
Yep.
then the mites drop down to the bottom of the hive. It's a solid bottom board. They just land on there, and they'll crawl onto another bee. If it's a screen bottom board, they drop out onto the ground, and they have a heck of a job getting back into the hive. So that's how a screen bottom board helps lower mite levels.
Okay.
Best time of day to move a hive? After dark? Absolutely. It depends. If you're only moving them a yard, 3, 4 feet, then you can do it right there and then when you're in the bee yard. If you have to move them and transport them somewhere, it's best to do it at dark or on a rainy day when the bees are all in the hive. So moving hives can be problematic because if you're moving them only say 50 yards or something, then you've got a problem because the bees want to go back to the place that they live because they know the territory. So it is a more involved question, and it depends on how far you're wanting to move a hive.
One says, I noticed that some of Amy's supers are different colors, but I usually see the white ones in the south, maybe to reflect heat in the hot summer.
Absolutely right.
So yes, so the
Yep.
farther south you go, the lighter colors or the white will help the hives not get too hot. Up here in the Northeast, that's not an issue. In fact, we have cool, even in the summer, our mornings are fairly cool, so it actually the darker colors help to heat up the hive. Now, I wouldn't go with black because that's really gonna attract the sun's rays and heat. But I love bright colors. You can have a lot of fun. I've seen people decorate them and make them look like McDonald's and motels, and
Yeah.
you can have have fun with
Have
it.
fun with it.
Definitely.
Definitely. When I buy a nuke for a Langstroth hive, do the frames for the nuke fit? Yes, almost all nukes are made with deep Langstroth frames.
Mhm.
That's the 9-inch deep frames. And so, yes, they go straight into a deep box. You can, if you have a hive that only runs on, say, medium supers, you can ask your beekeeper that if this is the advantage of buying local. I have every year I've got some people that ask, can I have a nuke with medium frames instead of deep frames, and they can do a special order for you.
Yep. Where to buy tools and extra things needed. Well, it's always great if you can find a local beekeeping supply store or person. You can check with your local beekeeping clubs. They may have lists of places you can do that. If you don't have one in your area, we like Better Bee. We find that they've got some great stuff. Also, Dadant is a fairly decent supplier out there, but there are some good suppliers online. One of the things that we don't necessarily recommend are like your big box stores or Tractor Supplies because they tend not to be as high quality as you can get from actual beekeeping supply places.
Can you convert a hive of wild bees into a honey producing hive? The answer is yes, but it's not a beginner issue. Generally speaking, what wild hives, they've built their combs sort of freestyle in an empty space, and you can cut those combs out. And what I used to do it a lot. You cut the combs out to shape, and they fit into a frame using rubber bands to hold those combs upright in those frames, etc. And so you can do that, and within a few weeks, they've repaired the combs, and yeah, they could be an absolutely normal hive. The bees themselves are just the same. It's just a matter of knowing how to physically assist them in moving that stuff from one freestyle hive to wooden frames.
How many hives is best to start with? One or two? We highly recommend two, and we've talked about this a little, touched on this a few times, but can't say it enough. If you are able, we recommend starting with two hives, and here's why. If you tend to run into trouble with one of your hives, say you're not sure if you have a queen or it's just really slow to take off, a lot of times if you have a problem with one hive, you can fix it with the other hive. And by that, I mean you can move over a frame of brood, or you can move over a frame of eggs to a hive that's not producing or that's not taking off. If we think we might be queenless, by moving a frame of eggs from your other hive and putting it into the hive, you're not sure if you have a queen anymore, that can tell you whether or not you have a queen because they'll make a queen cell if there's no queen in there. So there's just many, many different reasons why it's really great to start off with two. Now, that being said, starting off with one is perfectly fine. And for me, when I first started off, Peter was telling me the exact same thing. I'm like, what, are you crazy? I don't even know what I'm doing with one hive. But as I got going and I'd run into problems, and then I'd have to go find other resources to try to fix my issues,
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, if I had a second one, I could have fixed that myself.
Yeah.
So
The even bigger, and this is coming from a teacher's point of view, is having two hives allows you to identify a hive that's having a problem.
exactly.
If you're a new beekeeper, you don't necessarily recognize a hive as a problem. You just thought, well, I thought they'd grow a bit faster than this.
Hmm.
Whereas if you've got one hive that's booming and one hive that's not, you say, okay, why is this one that's not booming not booming? And it helps you identify the problem.
Yeah.
And as Amy said, you can very often then fix it by literally taking bees or brood or combs from one hive and putting them in the other, and you can often fix the problem that way. Interested in harvesting honeycomb. Is there an issue using a frame that doesn't have the black membrane? By that, I believe you mean the
The
foundation.
foundation.
Yeah, with producing comb honey, you either do it without using foundation at all, or what I would do is you can buy some ultra thin wax foundation, and I just cut it into little 1-inch strips and put it at the top bar of the hive, and the bees fill in that comb with comb, and that's frame with comb and honey. Um, Comb honey production can be problematic, and so it's probably not for the first year. But when you've got a bit of experience, comb honey production is great because
Mhm.
you can also sell it at many times the price of normal honey,
It is in high
which
demand.
is great.
It is. It is. It is. You mentioned Flow Hive was not great for newbies. What about Primal Beehive? Any thoughts?
Primal Beehive. To be honest, I have never heard of Primal Beehive.
I haven't either.
So there's some brand names out there. We have no idea what Primal Beehive is. We could look it up, and we'll endeavor to do so. But basically, what we recommend is we here in Beekeeping 24/7 want to keep it simple. And so our recommendation is to go with a standard Langstroth hive. Get your husbandry right that way with conventional equipment, and then look at some of the alternative types of equipment. And once you know what you're doing, you have a good idea what you're doing, then you can be a better judge as whether it's good or not. And so that would be our recommendation: is given the choice, go with a Langstroth hive.
And like I said, once you become experienced and you know what you're doing, the sky's the limit.
That's right.
You can have a whole bunch of fun and try different things.
How many people have we got now?
We've
I'm
got
a bit curious.
156.
156.
in
Right.
here right now.
Information about moisture control during the winter. Okay. Cold sometimes kills bees. Moisture more often than cold can probably kill bees. And so there's a few things that you can do. First of all, we don't want a hive sitting in very damp locations.
Right.
So they want to be on a good stand where they're not sitting in puddles of mud and that sort of thing. Having a screen bottom board helps a lot to keep moisture levels down. If you're in an area like us here in Maine, where moisture is not an issue because it's all frozen, and so we've got humidity here of about 15%, because all the moisture is frozen out of the air. Come spring, when into mud season, everything melts. That might be a different issue, but again, you want it to drain well. So number one, a hive wants to be tipped forward, so any moisture trickles out. But a screen bottom board, that's less of an issue.
Yeah.
We like to have an upper entrance as well as a lower entrance, which again helps keep moisture down. And the other thing is insulation, having the roof well insulated so that if there is any condensation, we might use a wicking board called Homosote at the top of the hive, but good insulation will also prevent condensation at the top of the hive. And condensation around the insides, the sides of the hive are not a problem. The bees will actually drink that water. So those are the sort of things we do for moisture control.
One, I just saw scroll through here that they're asking if the Langstroth frames are a universal size. And yeah, until you get into your specialty hives, I've seen some hexagonal ones and all these fancy other hives.
Yeah.
For the most part, your Langstroth frames, they are universal and they go into many, many different types of hives.
Yeah, and the foundation usually fits the frame. There is some variation between manufacturers where some make a slightly bigger frame than others and that sort of thing, which is very frustrating. But generally speaking, they are very, very close to universal.
Yep. And there's some people here asking, when should they order their nukes? When should they order their bees? Now.
As soon as possible. Yeah, a lot of, and you'll see from the comments in here, a lot of folks have already missed their opportunity to buy nukes locally because they sell out. So look around, shop around, and you should be able to find them. Failing that, packages ship more easily than nukes. If you can't get a local nuke, packages are okay, and you can even get them through the mail, but if you can get nukes locally, way better. And even if you can't get the breed that you would ideally like, then you can always requeen later in the year. Once that colony is established, you can requeen with a new genetics and have if you wanted to have a Golden West hive, you can put a new queen in there and replace the queen of the hive.
Yeah, and like he said, the neat part about, you may have one race of bees and decide, I want to change that, and you just get a different race, a different queen to put in, and eventually her genetics take over that hive. That's also
right.
how you fix a nasty hive is
That's
get
right.
get the nasty queen out and get some new genetics in there.
Yeah.
We have one person who says, "Can you write out what you use?" And you and I, we
Yes,
talked about.
actually,
We're going to do that for you folks.
I've got it on my a Word document that
Yep.
I've almost finished it now, so we'll try and get that up in the next 2 days.
Yeah. So tomorrow, tomorrow's kind of our freebie day. So we're going to catch up on a lot of these questions, and but also we're going to give you folks some freebies as well. We're going to have some extra videos, and so Thursday is a good day for us to.
Yeah,
for
so
that.
keep on coming back to the
Keep
site
checking the
because
page.
there's a lot of stuff that we're going to put up there. Where do I buy those black frames you showed us? So you've got black frames and black foundation. So this is what we'd call a black frame where the foundation is actually built into it. And this is a wooden, this is the black foundation which goes into those wooden frames like that. So it'll go into there. Both of these are usually available at any beekeeping supply store. If you don't have a local beekeeping supply store, go to something like Better Bee, Man Lake, Dedant. Look at beekeeping supplies, Google that, and you're going to find them, and you can have them shipped to you.
Mm-hmm. And the difference is, I think I mentioned it, and one person who asked that with these one piece, sometimes these tend to hold up a little bit better, and that's because bees like to glue everything together, and you'll learn that.
They don't break.
The bee super glue. The wooden ones tend to break, but you can fix them if they do.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So they both work perfectly well.
Why do beekeeping suits have so many pockets? Too small for hive tools. Well, usually you want your hive tool to stick out. You don't want your hive tool to be buried in your pocket. You want your hive tool to actually be accessible. That's probably why. I'm always my pockets are usually full of stuff, so I love having a lot of pockets. But if you've got too big a pocket, you've got too many things in that pocket. So that's as close an answer as I guess I could make.
But that was a good point.
Yeah,
that was a really good point. Once nukes are going, would it be proactive to have another hive set up in case a swarm or they outgrow the first hive?
I'd be inclined to just, if you've got 2 hives, I'd be inclined to put bees in both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing if, like with your empty nuke box, for example, put a frame in there or 2, especially one with some comb in it, and you might attract a swarm to move into the nuke box. But it's a bit of a waste having all the extra. It is good to have spare equipment.
Definitely.
And the more hives you've got, the more spare equipment you will need to have on hand. And so anything that's not in use, you could have something out there, and in the event that a swarm moved into it, okay, now you can run to the beekeeping supply store and get some other boxes to replace the one that this was your spare. You need another spare now, and plus some. So not a bad idea to use it because you may get a colony move into it.
Or you may catch your own if your hive swarms. Not always, doesn't always happen, but it does happen sometimes.
Always end up in a big tree somewhere. And then
always would go at least 40 feet up a tree that I either couldn't get at, and I just look at them and wave goodbye as they leave. But it's always a good idea to have some kind of swarm trap up, and who knows, you might get lucky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it true that you have to have multiple hives in order to produce honey? Absolutely not.
Nope.
No, one hive, you are much more likely to produce more honey with more hives, more honey per hive, in fact, because for the reason that we mentioned, having more than one hive, you can usually fix problems with one hive and help strengthen a colony that may not have otherwise been strong. So generally speaking, you will get more from your per hive by having more than one hive. But that's not to say that a single colony can't produce 300 pounds of surplus honey all by itself. So it depends on your management and a little bit on luck.
And the honey flow.
Absolutely on the
honey flow. One thing is, like, first-year beekeepers, a lot of times you may not get much honey at all. You can, it's possible. A lot depends on the weather and on the honey flow. But first-year beekeepers, a lot of it is building up the hive, building the wax, increasing the size of your colony. So don't be disappointed if in your first year you get very little honey. Second year, that's when they really start taking off.
Yeah.
But not to say you can't.
Yeah.
You can get some honey on your first year hives.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first year, those bees are building a lot of wax, and it takes 7 pounds of honey just to make 1 pound of wax. If you've already got your combs already built in your second year, all that honey that went into making wax last year now goes into those combs, which you can harvest.
Yep.
What happens when I get 2 deeps and a
Couple of supers.
couple of supers full? Do I get another nuke to start a new hive? By the time you've filled up your supers and stuff, I would say it's probably too late to get another one. But I'm trying to figure out exactly what you mean there. Do you mean split that hive to make another hive?
Mhm.
Perhaps, but you typically do that in the spring. So I would work on the assumption that a strong hive will have 2 deep boxes as its brood chamber and its overwintering structure, and anything between 1 and 3 honey supers, sometimes many more than that, but usually in the two is about the average, depending on your local honey flows.
So I see one here says, having bees is the most wonderful experience. I'm terrified, though, in the midst of this joy about messing up.
That must.
How often is it best to inspect the hive and not to over disturb them? Let's talk about 2 things here. First,
I thought you were going to say they were terrified of the bees, and
no, that was
reminded
me.
of you.
That was me. That was me when I first started off. So one of the reasons that we've started beekeeping 24/7 and why we're here and why we even do these workshops is to help you not be terrified and to give you support. These workshops that we do it here is just a little taste of what we do in beekeeping 24/7, and it's just the tip of the iceberg on things that you need to know to become a beekeeper. I mean, we highly recommend, there's full classes, which we do offer. We offer complete classes. But one of the things that we offer that you don't find much is mentorship. And if you folks, and we'll talk about it later and tell you if anybody's interested to stick with us after this workshop, we mentor new beekeepers and beekeepers that may be struggling, maybe started in the past and their bees died and they tried again. And I noticed that a few of you folks had lost some bees and you stuck with it, and I applaud you on that for not giving up. But that's why we're here, and that's what we do. We're here to support you. So I understand it. I get how terrifying it is to start. I took classes from Peter, and the second I walked out of that building, gone. I mean, and I got my bees, and I'm like, I got my bees. Now what? Oh my gosh, what am I looking at? And I called this man so many times, many times, and and that's what we offer. We offer to be there for you folks, where you can reach us, and we're called Beekeeping 24/7 because we're here for you pretty much 24/7.
Yeah.
So
also noticed in the terms in the you folks that have joined this, and a lot of you mentioned being overwhelmed by the amount of information that's out there.
That's so true.
And so here, what we'd like to do is Beekeeping 24/7 is not just this workshop, but it's a membership group. We have hundreds of beekeepers who we mentor continuously online. And what we try to do is keep it simple. This workshop, as Amy said, we're going through everything, trying to cover a lot of ground to touch, so you've got an idea of what you would be coming up against when you're beekeeping. What we really recommend is that you go into more detail on all of these subjects.
Mhm.
But it's so easy to be overwhelmed when you're starting to bring in, you're looking up 3 or 4 or 5 different YouTube channels, and you're trying to take on board everything. The books, a lot of them are written by or for people in different areas than you are and things.
Yeah.
And you're getting, and as you will find, if you go online or something, and you ask 6 beekeepers a question, you're going to get many different answers.
Yeah.
Most of which will be acceptable answers in that they would probably get you where you want to go. The problem is, as a beginner, you don't know whether you're following a single path or lots of different paths going this way and then that way, which is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
What you want is simple guidance in terms of do this, then you do this, then you do this. And if you do it that way, although there are many other ways, you will be successful.
Yeah. And as you can see here,
we try to keep it simple.
We do, and as you can see here with all these questions and all this stuff coming in, that's what we do, and that's what we do all summer, all spring, all winter. We keep this going the entire time. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I just thought that that was a, you know, I see people saying how
Yeah.
terrifying in the overload. That's why we're here. And man, we absolutely love doing this. And I hope you folks can tell that
Yeah.
we do love doing
And
this.
I think you'll find with if you have an opportunity, we've got some beekeeping 24/7 members who do this on a join us for these workshops, because as part of the membership you can do that for free, and so they would probably tell you that basically by keeping it simple and easy to follow stuff, then basically you become more successful. Our members, for example, have more than double the national average of survivorship for their bees. And so we still lose some hives, but we have a way better survivorship.
We do.
They produce, on average, probably a lot more honey because their hives are alive and healthier. So
Yeah.
by keeping it simple,
Yep.
it gets slow
And they
and
are
steady.
just an amazing group of people. I
Yeah.
mean, in this day and age, you wouldn't think that you could bring people together from all over the country and all over, and everybody be friendly and helpful and kind. And that's exactly what we have in Beekeeping
Oh, yeah,
24/7.
and
I
the
can't
sort
say
of
enough about
and
them.
the sort of thing that used to bug us a lot before we started Beekeeping 24/7 is we were members of a lot of different online beekeeping groups and things, and the nastiness that's out there was just ridiculous. Somebody would ask a very simple question,
Just
and they
ridiculous.
would get, not only would they get multiple answers, but they'd get multiple critics
Hmm.
saying you shouldn't be doing this, and you shouldn't be keeping bees if you're doing this sort of thing. And
Yep.
it used to drive us nuts. We hardly ever
That's
go onto
actually-
those sites anymore.
That's what kind of launched us into this.
Literally,
It really
that's
did.
what spurred
It
us
really
on to say
did.
there's got to be a better way.
All right. My goodness, these questions are just rolling.
Yeah, look at-
I want you guys to see just
These are the questions that we have, and that's just for tonight.
this is. We're
We-
going to be doing a lot
we
of
are-
We're going to be doing a lot of typing after
We've
this.
got a very active group
We
here.
do.
which
We
is
love it.
terrific.
We
This is
love it.
wonderful. Aggressive hive. Do I kill the queen? Remove the queen larva? The simple answer is yes. Dealing with a very aggressive hive and having to requeen it is a challenge.
It is.
And so I'm afraid it's too detailed to go into here right now. But it is a challenge, and we will help you through that process if you actually do. But the simple answer is yes, you're going to requeen the hive. The problem is finding a queen in that really aggressive hive. It's always
That's
a
not
lot of
fun.
But,
Done it.
But
Yep.
it can be done. It's very simple to do, but it's intimidating for the beginner.
So more questions about when to order the bees and ordering nukes. Do it now because a lot of places are selling out.
The
So-
sooner you can, the
Yep.
better. If you're in Maine, I can help you. Or you
Oh, I
have, but
love
you have
this
to come and pick it up. What's that?
Should I order plain boxes if I want to let kids paint?
Oh, absolutely.
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 That is great. I mean, let your kids go crazy on them. And I actually saw, now some of the hives, people bought hives and they came and they were wax coated boxes, and they gave their kids crayons, and they decorated the wax coated ones with crayon. It was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great family project, and let them be creative.
State or local regulations for beekeeping. Do we need permission to keep bees? Generally, in 99% of cases, no, you do not need permission to keep bees. But you, in states like Maine, you register your hives. Cost you a pittance, really. It's $10 for up to, no, $15 for up to 10 hives or something.
Something like that. It doesn't. It's not much.
But basically, that is so the state apiarist knows where the hives are in the state, so that in the event of a disease outbreak, she knows who to alert and where to check for hives to prevent the spread of those diseases.
Yep. Protection from raccoons, possums. Do skunks cause problems? Yes, they do.
The first two, no.
Right.
Skunks, yes.
Skunks, yes. So raccoons and possums should pretty much leave them alone. What skunks like to do is they like to walk up to the hives and scratch on the outside of the hives, which sends the bees out, which they like to gobble up as they come out. That's one of the reasons that we like to have hives up off the ground, because this causes the skunk to have to stand up to do that scratch, and that exposes their belly. They do not like getting stung in the belly. So that is one reason we keep. There's other reasons why we keep our hives up off the ground, but that is one of them.
Yeah.
So skunks and bears two problems to beehives.
How often to test for mites? Does a test kill bees? I would recommend trying to test each hive once a month. And I've found I used to test about 3 or 4 of hives in a yard of 20 hives. Now I've come to the conclusion, and other beekeepers are starting to come to the same conclusion. I test every single hive, and I've got over 100, and I tested them 3 or 4 times last year. And the information that you get from testing all those hives is phenomenal. So it is very, very helpful to test all of your hives rather than just one. And yes, it does kill bees, as we mentioned. It's half a cup of bees, which is roughly 300 bees. It will kill 300 bees, but the queen lays that in a matter of an hour. Did I say minutes before? I meant it in an hour or so. She lays a couple, 2 or 3 per minute when she's really going. So within a couple of hours, she's replaced all of those bees.
Is there somewhere we can learn to treat for mites? Yes, with us.
Yes, and we're going to post a video about it tomorrow.
We're gonna give that to you folks in this workshop. So yes.
How do you catch half a cup of bees? Do you have that scoop down there?
I do.
That's stuff there. We'll just quickly show you what we do. And you'll see it in the video tomorrow, and that white tub. So basically, you take a half cup of bees. You see this is well dirtied and that sort of thing. I would take a frame containing a lot of brood and tip it into a frame like this. Boom, and the bees drop in there. Half the bees are going to fly out. They're the older bees that they fly. The young bees are going to stay put, and they're going to be crawling around in here. And so what I'll do is take my half cup scoop, shake it off so it's half cup level, put it in, and we're done.
Now, and ahead of time, you've got alcohol in here. You can use a mixture of a little bit of Dawn and some water.
1 tablespoon per gallon.
Yep. And you can also use car washer fluid as well. But anyway, that goes in there, and again, shake, 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 shake it for a bit, and then we count the mites that fall off on the bottom.
But basically, a scoop and a little tray, and anything that you didn't scoop up goes back in the hive.
So
and that's all there is to it.
Another thing someone talked about were beetle traps. So we wanted to demonstrate that real quick.
A small hive beetle trap, you would take a little tray like this. They cost a couple of bucks. You put a little bit of vegetable or mineral oil in there, maybe a 1/4 of an inch in there. They have little hidey holes in there. So when the beetles come across that, and this is the top of your super, and in one corner, you would put this in there, and the beetles come crawling around here, and they're getting chased by a bee, so they go down in that hole to hide, and they end up in the oil, and they drown in the oil. And every now and again, you've got a load of beetles in there, and you chuck that out.
So those are small hive beetles. Not everybody has problems with them.
Generally,
but they're
southeast of the country tends to have the most issues with them. The more sun you can have the hive in, the better. The more hours of direct sun you've got, the less, and the drier the location, the less small hive beetles are an issue.
Can I do anything to have a successful hive in a partly shaded area, like paint them dark?
Yeah, that would help. The shade, the sun is good for the hive, but yeah, I mean, hives can be perfectly successful in shaded areas, but yeah, that wouldn't be a bad thing at all, because the hours that they do go in the sun, they will warm up faster.
And if you can control it, or what area it is, morning sun is the best, because it tends to heat the hive up quicker, and the girls get started a lot quicker in the morning. Yeah. And some places in the afternoon in the fall, it gets pretty hot. So if you can put them someplace where they get morning sun, that's the way to go.
Right. Now, what kind of oil can you use in the cans to keep ants out? This is referring back to some of the answers. A couple of people asked about ants, if they're an issue for your hive. How do you prevent ants getting in the hive? You can put your hive on little legs. On whatever it's standing on, it can just make little legs that the hive can stand on, and make each leg sit inside a little can, and fill that can up with oil. Now, effectively, what you have is a moat around each leg. Now, for those types of things, you can use old motor oil, you can use vegetable oil, you can use mineral oil. Not to be confused with those small hive beetle traps. You would only use vegetable or mineral oil in those, but for a moat to go around the legs of your hive, any sort of oil will work.
How many hives do you each have and manage?
went into the winter this year with 105 hives, and I peak during the spring when I'm making nukes at over 250.
And I run anywhere from 5 to 10 hives. It varies. I just closed down one of my yards this year, so I've backed down to 5. So I'm in the city and have a fairly small backyard. I don't have any more than 5 in that, but I'm thinking about starting up some new yards someplace else again. And yeah, and once I retire, I'll have a lot more.
But you get a heck of a lot of honey out of those little
I
hives.
certainly do. That's another thing, and we've shared this with our members in Beekeeping 24/7. We have a method that we use and that I use frequently now called the Damari method, and it's advanced, but I have got hundreds of pounds of honey off a single hive, and it's quite effective. So
Very.
yes.
New hive. Lately, I saw several bees dead in the snow I haven't seen before. That is great news. If you have hives in the snow and you start to see some dead bees in the snow, your bees are alive.
Yep.
And the reason you can tell that is that, first of all, they have to be warm to get out of the hive in the first place. That means you've got a warm cluster. And so on a bright sunny day, the bees went out to fly. But usually those are bees that were going to die anyway. A lot of the bees fade off during the winter. Usually roughly half the bees you went into the winter with are going to die during the course of the winter. And so in a typical hive, that might be as many as 100 bees a day. Most end up dropping to the bottom of the hive, but a lot fly out or are carried out by their sisters. And so seeing dead bees on the snow is a sure sign that your hive is currently alive.
I'm seeing several things coming through here. Bees and chickens. Bees and chickens go together quite nicely.
They do.
They do. Your chickens will keep bees that do fly out to die. It's a nice little snack, a nice little treat for your bees. There's different types of management for mites using, specifically, it's called a drone comb, where you encourage the queen to lay drones, and you take a frame out, you freeze it, and then you put that out, and your chickens will clean that right up. I don't know, as far as, I don't have chickens with my hives, and Peter doesn't either, but I know a lot of people that do, and they go together quite nicely. Now, if your chickens are standing by and pecking the side of the box, they probably don't like it.
Bees attack chickens.
Well, bees, yeah, and but they, like I said, bees and chickens go together nicely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is Apimaye hive better for a cold north winter? Most using Langstroth are insulated a bad thing. Having not used Apimaye, I've seen Apimaye hives. I'm sure they are as good as a Langstroth hive, but a lot more expensive. And I would, if you're asking my opinion, I would say use a wooden Langstroth hive. But by all means, knock yourself out. Use Apimaye hive. The internal structure is going to be pretty much the same.
Yep. I want to get myself an Apimaye hive. I've been interested in those as well. But like Peter said,
try different ones.
They're expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They're expensive. And I mean, we get our hives through here in the winter with our wooden Langstroth hives. We throw a bee cozy over it, which is insulation.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
Yep. I got bees from a friend last year. When do I treat for mites? Last year is the answer. You should be treating for mites as you sample. You want to sample your hives monthly during the warm months if possible, and treat according to the samples. In almost all cases, the hive will need treating at least once during the year, usually 2 or 3 times nowadays. So if your hive makes it through the winter, which I hope it does, but it's at a disadvantage because it may not have been treated last year, but hopefully it has, start looking as soon as you're getting warm weather, do a mite test. And when you're doing your inspections, work on the assumption that if you see the queen, do a mite test right there and then. But failing that, try and get a mite test done every month.
I think guinea fowl. Someone asked about guinea fowl. I think guinea fowl would be fine as well. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all bug eaters, and you know, they will they'll actually help with probably even some of the pests that are out and around your hives. So I think guinea fowls will be just fine. Should I insulate for heat? It gets hot in the summer in Florida. So like we kind of touched on a little earlier, in your hotter climates, if you can put your hives in a place maybe that get some shade in the afternoon, that's good. But we know we have a lot of beekeepers that are in Florida, and those bees are perfectly fine in the heat. They manage the temperature of their hive quite well. You'll see them fanning, standing out on the bottom board.
As long as they've got a water source
Yep.
nearby, they will keep the temperature down in the hive. The insulation, there would be advantages. I would certainly consider maybe something on top of the hive so that they're not too hot.
Ladies.
But as I say, direct sun on the hive helps with things like small hive beetles as well. So the bee, you're better at a trade off. So I would let them be hot and not insulate them in those conditions.
That hour went by super
I can't believe
fast.
it. I was just looking to see the time. There's a few minutes to go.
That went by super fast.
And
So
we still have
piles of questions here, and I can see them still coming in. So here's where we go from here. First off, we want to say, in case some of you folks are just coming in, we are asking everybody to say hi and where they're from. If you do that, your name is going to go in for a drawing, and
so
we will.
I'm Peter Cowan from Maine. You
Yep.
want to be putting who you are and what state you're from, so that you're in for the prize drawing on Friday.
Yep, and we'll do that on Friday at the end of that live session, and we are doing a hat, a T-shirt, and a sweatshirt. Beekeeping 24/7, and we got a lot of work to do
Are
still.
we putting a link for Beekeeping
We
24/7?
will. We will.
on
A
this?
couple of you have asked, and I see them on here about the membership, and we'll go into more of that a little bit further in the week. However, for those of you who want a little bit more information on what we offer, I will put a link on the page, and you can click on it, and it'll take you there and it'll answer your questions.
We've got a lot of comments that you may need to scroll through, but we'll put it on the page here, and so you can look. There's a page which describes all sorts about
What we
Beekeeping
offer.
24/7, what we do, and if you're interested, you can click on the thing to say, yeah, I'm interested, and get more information on whether you want to buy it or not.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
we will look forward to seeing all you guys on Friday. As I say, tune in and check on the page tomorrow for all the extra bits and pieces we're going to put on tomorrow, and we'll probably put some on after tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil you guys a bit. We're gonna
right.
give you some freebies. We have hundreds of instructional videos in Beekeeping 24/7, and we're gonna tap into them a little bit and show you guys what we
We're
do.
not going to put hundreds up, but
No.
we'll put a few.
No.
certainly.
But we have a few to choose from. Was my
Yeah, of
point.
course, yeah, very true. Very true.
True.
Yeah, basically, we make lots of videos that basically in response to questions.
Yeah.
So if somebody asks an entry question, that'll make it the best way to describe this is actually show you.
Yeah.
So we will do a video especially about it. And so, for example, we're going to show you the mite treatments because it's so important. We really want you to see that. And so if you leave here with one thing only, learn how to sample for mites, because that's the biggest thing you can do to keep your bees alive. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for all these questions.
This is great. I mean,
we
you guys.
are going to answer some of the answers in the write-up. Is going to be, we entered that during the video, so hopefully you watched the video. But anything we know we didn't get an answer to, we're definitely going to write down an answer there for you.
Yep. And other than that, you can continue to keep the questions coming. Feel free to post them, or even better yet, put them below the videos where you have your question. That way, we can keep the page filtered out a bit.
Yeah, we're going to be answering more tomorrow because a lot of folks aren't going to get a chance to watch this tonight. They couldn't watch it live. They're going to be watching it tomorrow, the next day. We're going to keep on until the end of the course. We will check to see any unanswered questions and get them answered there.
All right, folks. Thank you again. We hope you enjoyed tonight, and we will see you again on Friday.
See you Friday.
All right.
Bye-bye.